Okay, so now we're going to talk about chroma keying, which is either using a blue or green screen. And there's two types of chroma keying. You can either do on location or in studio. Now I'm not going to go too much into green screen studios because if you have one or have access to one, then you don't need to watch this tutorial. You can just get out there and make awesome. But most of us will probably have access to a green or blue sheet, and that's pretty much all you need. So I'm just going to show you an example of on-location chroma keying. So here we have our blue screen, and I've just gotten the crew to pull it tight on these cardboard poles that I've attached to it, and that looks pretty good. I mean, it's an overcast day, there's no shadows, and I was able to pull a pretty decent key from this. Now, as you saw, this isn't really crowd duplication. I mean, it's a visual effects test shot, but the setup is the same. Just imagine instead of this house here, we have the grass field. And as soon as the advantage of keying is as soon as you key this one person out, you can duplicate him a million times. And the advantage with on-location shooting is that the subject will have the exact lighting as the scene. So you don't need to set up a studio and try and perfect your lighting. Now I'm not going to show you how to key it out because that's simple, and Andrew Kramer's got a perfect tutorial on that which you all know about. But I will say is if it's sunny, forget about on location blue screening, because if you have a light, which is the sun, and it'll be blaring down on the screen, this subject is going to cast shadows onto the screen, and if it's a different time of day or you're on a different angle, the sun is going to be behind the screen and the screen is going to be casting shadows on the grass. So what I recommend blue screening for is medium shots. Never do a wide shot like we did in the difference matting with the chroma key, because then you have to try and key out the blue screen that's touching the grass, that's casting a shadow. Just do it with mid shots where you can cut them off at the knees, cut them off at the waist, and yeah, everything will be fine. Here's an example from Hollywood camera work of green screen plates where shadows have been cast on the screen. That's not the worst thing that can happen. The worst thing is the screen casting shadows on the grass, but with this one they've actually got they've got a green screen large enough to cover the grass as well, which is really ideal. So keep that in mind. Now here's another what not to do. We've got our shot, we've got the blue screen, it's on location, but the problem is we're using a digital SLR camera and the depth of field makes this key impossible. That looks shocking. So whenever you're keying, always use either deep focus or focus on the edges that are going to be touching the screen. Now if it was a sunny day or your on location blue screening didn't really work out, then you can still do it in studio. Even if you don't have a studio, you just set up your blue screen and get to somewhere where there's light that's similar to where you were shooting on the day. So if you're filming in World of Warcraft and there's not much light in the Night Elf starting area, that's pretty easy light to replicate, and as you can see here, it doesn't look perfect, but it looks okay. And that was just filmed in a classroom on a simple blue screen with no external lighting, just the natural light. Often when you're filming a subject in front of a green screen for a scene, you would fill the entire frame with that person so that you can get the maximum detail and resolution into the image. But this image is often much too big for the actual scene. So when you scale it down and pull the key, you'll notice that it doesn't really match the scene behind it. There's way too much grain in the scene behind it, and this looks a little too perfect, which by the way I got from hollywoodcamerawork.com .us, sorry. It's got lots of free green screen plates you can download and train yourself with. It's a really great resource. And a way to fix that is to type in match grain and apply that. Now I've deliberately used really grainy background footage just to prove a point. So select the background layer and you'll see that when you go to final output that it really does a great job of matching the grain from this scene. I mean, it looks like she actually belongs in here. Okay, so in this example we can see that we've used chroma keying and it's a bad key. I mean, it looks terrible. But we're not going to talk about that, we're just going to ignore the fact that it's bad, and I want to make the point that once you've done a key, you can duplicate this this tank, which is a character from Left 4 Dead, the game, you can duplicate him as many times as you want with the one key. But with difference matting, we can't just do that. We can't just take this rank 3 and put it over here because the grass looks too different. Or put it over there. It looks similar, but you can't just put it anywhere because we've got, you know, it's not a perfect key. We've got all this grass. And with the green screen, you don't have that. When you chroma key with green screen, you key out all the green. So that's a massive advantage that chroma key has over difference matting. Well, that's it for chroma keying. I'd just like to say that the results for on-location chroma keying really depend on the conditions at the time, where the sun is, if it's overcast or not. Studio chroma keying really depends on the setup. Is your green or blue screen lit well? Is the subject lit well? Is there any crinkles in the green screen or blue screen? And once you've got a good setup, then you can perfect the techniques of compositing blue screen over stock or live action footage, and you'll get some really good results.